please go and check out my Telegram channel. The link is below because that's where you're going to be able to get all the extra detail that you can't get here. I'll see you there. Hello, lovely Starseeds and Lightworkers. It's Alexander Quinn, and if you're new to this channel, I channel the Arcturians, I channel the Mantis being, I also channel the Angelics, although I personally have a preference for the ETs, but I do all of it. And I also teach people full-time how to do it as well, and it's easier than you think. And today I sat down and I thought, oh my god, what am I going to put out this week? And my Mantis being came in and said, why don't you break it down in some easy steps about why people might can't get through to their guides, their angelics, their ancestors, their ETs, the celestials. It can be any or all of them, and including your higher self. So I've just broken it down in 10 nice, easy steps. We're going to just walk through the basics, especially for some of you who are still learning, you haven't done it before. And I'm going to start with the first one. So the first one is personal energy and frequency match. Personal energy, why is that so important? Because it's really, really important to understand your own personal energy before you start doing any spiritual work. A triathlete or a wrestler or an MMA fighter or a javelin thrower is not going to start going into any athletic work without doing some warm-ups or a stretch or whatever, all that kind of thing. So if you want to speak to your spirit guides and you want to go in deep, I always recommend doing a few stretches, doing a few warm-ups. Go into your meditation, balance your energy first, and prepare yourself. You don't want to come off a long day at work, having had an argument with your boss and then go straight into, right now I'm going to speak to my spirit guides. You've got to do a bit of energy prep, okay? But frequency match is also super duper important because you want to be a frequency match for the type of being that you want to speak to, or sometimes you'll be a frequency match for whatever is going to come through. So, for example, when I started off, I was channeling the Arcturians. Then I eventually stair-stepped. And I don't want to say I went above the Arcturians, but I went to a stair-step where I went to a higher dimensionality that the Arcturians usually are playing at around 5 or 6. Then the Mantis being came in around 9 and above. And then I was trying to channel the Arcturians. Actually, the Mantis being would come in because I had become a frequency match for a different type of being. So understand where your vibration sits and where you sit in the vibrational constructs. You can get a bit of an understanding of what might come through. So that's really, really important. Number two, just before we get on to number two, going back to number one a little bit, understand your own energy. A lot of people come to me and they say, Alexander, I can feel my guides, but I can't see them. I can see my guys, but I can't feel them. And a lot of people, when their third eye is very, very closed down and blocked, they have to go back down into their heart, into the feeling, because there's no other choice. So understand what is going on with your energy, where your blockages are, and where your deficits are, before you start trying to channel or see or speak to your guides, so you've got a bit of an understanding of what your energy is doing and why you can't interface. So that's quite important. So now we're going to move on to number two. Expectation and personal shutdown or closure. From time to time, I will be working with people who are doing a masterclass, and people will turn up and they say, right, I know the being I want to speak to. I know who I want to come through. I'm ready to go. And what happens is you set a personal, intentional, vibrational expectation that will not be a frequency match for the experience that your ET or your angelic or whoever it is that wants to come through can follow. So your free will then suddenly starts dictating the experience, which is not the experience a spirit, should we call, wants you to have. So you block yourself. And that is why it is so important when you are trying to access, speak, see, or feel your spirit guides, that you completely release expectation. Because I'm telling you now, during client sessions, when I'm going in to see who's around them, I have no idea what I'm going to see, and I have to surrender into whatever is going to come through, because Expectation is created by the ego. And expectation and the ego is the ego trying to control the spiritual experience you're about to have. And the two don't work. It's like oil and water. So you must release the expectation of what you think or what you want to see or feel, and allow spirit, your angelic or your ET, to govern what needs to come through, or your higher self. So that's one thing. Number 3, blocks in personal energy. Understand where your energy is. Understand, is your energy stagnated? Is your Merkaba okay? Is your toroidal field working? Is it stagnated? Have you blocked yourself off? Do you have an attachment? Is something or someone else blocking you? Is it something in this lifetime? Is it something in a previous lifetime? Usually this shouldn't matter too much, but if you don't know how to do all these things, go and see someone about it. Have I got an energy block? Am I blocking myself? Can I not get through to my higher self? In fact, actually what it was it not an angelic that was trying to come through? It was actually my higher self trying to come through. But my crown is shut down. My soul star chakra is shut down, and I can't get up there because I'm in a deficit of my own self. So understand your own blocks in your personal energy and what is going on. Number 4, is something stopping you, and are you in fear? Fear is like an awful energetic stench, and it creates a barrier that is all around you all the time, and it's very hard for anything apart from astral entities in the 4th to get in. You've got to come out of fear. So many clients and people that I work with when I'm doing my masterclasses, they come in, and when I go into their third eye, it's shut down and they've got fear in there. And then they wonder why they can't see, feel, or experience anything. Fear is like a massive vibrational wall that you put up around you. You have an entourage of angels, ancestors, and more, ETs, that are all around you at all times, protecting you. So when you say, oh, I don't want to go into the spirit world, I'm afraid, what you're actually saying is, to that entourage that came in with you, is that I don't trust you guys to do your job and filter out anything bad that potentially could come in. And what you're also saying is, I don't trust my own light. So you're basically putting a big finger up to yourself, your own light, and all your own guides. Don't do it. The best way is to go into the heart, go into your surrender, and then you're ready to access the spirit world. Be it astral entities, be it your shadow self, be it someone else's shadow self, be it something that's demonic, be it something that's angelic, something that's ET, anything. But even if you're gonna entertain wanting to try and speak to something that's demonic or something that is supposedly bad, even though I constantly go on about you must go into neutrality, because neutrality is here. There's no good and bad when you start going into the spirit world. You start putting on labels into things that are in the spirit world, and you're gonna be trapped in the illusion of the 3 and 4. You won't be able to get up there, because sometimes there are bad entities that are actually there to come through and show you blockages that are in yourself, but your ego will perceive it as something bad, and then you will cut yourself off from it because fear has dictated that it is something that it is not, because you have not gone into the real energy of that being. And that's why so often in these Facebook groups and these forums, they say, oh, this being is bad, this being is evil, da da da. And I say, have you channeled that being? Moving on. Number 5, can you hear them knocking? So many times your ancestors or spirit or your guides will be knocking, and they'll be sending you signs, and people put it off and they don't listen. They're like, oh yeah, this being has been coming through for the last couple of weeks, but I haven't done anything about it, or I didn't sit down into a quiet space, or I didn't go into the woods and sit in a chair and allow them to come through, or I wasn't sure, I heard this being is not a good thing, or whatever. And then they kept putting it off. They didn't go into it. So there's a being or a group or a collective consciousness trying to get through, usually always for your growth, and people put it off, or they're scared, or they don't want to go into it, or they don't want to allow them to come through. Don't do that. Let them in. Usually when it's something knocking, it's for your higher or greater good, or for some learning. And don't forget, people, especially light workers and starseeds, they forget the power of free will. Nothing can come into your field or your vessel without your free will. There is cosmic and spiritual law that is at the highest levels dictated on this planet, a planet of free will. If you don't respect that, or if you don't think that's real, then in some essence, a part of you is saying, God, I don't trust you at the highest level. Trust that. It's very, very important. So when they come knocking, it's a bit like when I stepped up from my Arcturian, and then the mantis beings came in. They were knocking for about 6 weeks, and I wasn't sure what it is until it was so loud they were screaming at me. And then I let them in, and my God, some incredible experiences started unfolding. So can you hear them knocking? Let them in. I let them in. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You've got nothing to lose, okay? Number 6. Is the ego shutting you down, telling you it's just your imagination? This is such a big one. The ego will always tell you it's your imagination, and it will shut you down, and it'll put you in a box, and it'll tell you it was all your imagination and you were making it up. This is such a classic. And I'm going to give this classic example that I give to all the people I work with and all the clients, and I tell the story over and over again because it is such a good one. There was a time, this is one of my favorite stories. There was a time when I was working with someone, and they came for an Arcturian reading because they had an expectation of what they thought they wanted. Actually, what came through was their grandfather. And the grandfather was giving me a very intriguing message that I wasn't expecting to hear. And they were talking about how, tell the client that I know about the oven exploding, I know about the kitchen setting on fire, and just say everything's going to be okay and you'll be getting some help soon. So I tell the client, and they burst out laughing because 2 days prior to the client session, the oven blew up and the kitchen set on fire, and they were having to get some work done. Now, if you're not used to speaking to spirit and having spirit come through, your ego would tell you, oh, that's just my imagination, that's something weird that's coming through, that can't be right, that's incorrect. Usually the weirder it is, the more on point the message is. Please trust that and trust your intuition. Don't discount it, because when you discount it, you've gone back into your mind and your ego is taking control. And that's why so many people live small lives. And I don't mean that harshly, but so many people never reach their full potential. They never expand. They never live out their dreams because the ego is constantly telling them and shutting them down, saying that's an imagination, that's too big, that's not real, you can't get there, you can't see that, you're imagining it. So you must negate the ego. That's why you must come out of your mind and down into your heart to do this kind of work and allow your guides to come in. Because people in the spiritual world all the time talk about, well, you must go into the heart, come out of your mind. But that is why. Because the ego will block you. Because the ego has filters that are based around fear and trauma and what happened with your parents and what happened in your childhood and so on. And all your unresolved shadow, which is actually where half of your gifts and your talents and your powers lie. But that's a whole nother video. Moving on, number 7. Drama and chaos. If you've got a whole load of drama and chaos, and I'm not talking about karmic or density that you're working through, but self-induced drama and chaos, it's a bit like some of your guys putting the brakes on going, whoa, let's just let him or her just kind of work through this for a moment, because they're creating their own chaos and their own sabotage right now, and they're going to have to work through it before they allow their free will for us to come through and just repair all the damage, because we're not going to do that. We'll give guidance and we'll watch and we'll try and give synchronicity. But if you're going to self-sabotage and create your own drama and your own chaos, we are going to step back. So try if you want to start getting into your spirit guides and seeing them and speaking to them, try to do it at a time when you're not self-sabotaging and going into what I call the luxury of victimhood, because people love victimhood and they treat it as a luxury. Oh no, poor me, and all this kind of stuff. It's self-sabotage, and then they won't come through. I know it sounds very harsh, but this is how it works. Okay, we're going to keep going. Number 8, diet. The spiritual community go insane about various things. If you eat red meat, you can't get it. You're never going to speak to them. If you have the occasional glass of wine, you can never speak to them. If you do this, you'll never speak to them. If you do this, your vibration will go so low, you'll never do it. And the spiritual community and New Age community just they're not in balance with diet and all these kinds of things. But generally, everything is about balance. A little bit of what you like won't harm you. Everything in moderation. But if you are on a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, or if you're on a very high alcohol diet, or if you're on a very high red meat diet, if it's actually, I know some channelers who eat a lot of red meat, it doesn't affect them at all. But know yourself. But one thing I will say is if you're on a very high sugar diet and you're eating a lot of preservatives, and especially artificial sugars, GMOs, it does have a major effect on your energy. A little bit of what you like every now and again is okay. It won't harm you. Forget what the New Age and spiritual community tell you, because I do this for a living. And there's a lot of people in the New Age and spiritual community who don't channel, who don't teach channeling, who don't do this work, and they go on and on and on and on about you can't do this, and one sip of this will ruin your energy for the next 12 months. It's not true. Everything in moderation, but high sugar and GMOs and processed foods and a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, and if you go over the top with ingesting a certain thing, it will start to have an effect on your energy, and it will pull you down into a lower version of yourself, okay? So I'm going to keep that a little bit general, but use your common sense. Okay, we're going to keep going. I think that was number 9, stair-stepping. You're going to find, and if you're not advanced, you're going to need help. Go and see someone. Go and get some advice, yeah? But you're going to find that every now and again, your guides will change around. And this is even for the most advanced of us who do this all the time. Sometimes you get a change of the guard with guides, ancestors, the celestials, the angelics, the ETs, and so on, so forth. Jesus, Sananda. There's so many of them, and so many of them all work together. Yeah, don't separate them out. They're all important. They're all useful. Even the lower astral entity beings are useful and important when you come out of labels such as good and bad and all that stuff, which is egoic labeling and all stuff learned in the illusion. You will stair step as you energetically vibrate and go up, and you'll learn, and then you do a stair step, and then you'll get a new guide come in, and then you'll stair step, and then you get another new guide come in. I'm talking over months and years. So become conscious of when you're stair stepping and when you're working with new collectives and new guys. Some of them will stay with you for a lifetime. Some will change with the seasons. Some will come just for a day. So don't get too caught up on who you need and when you need them. Allow them to become present for you. Very, very important, okay? That was number 9. Number 10. This is going to be the last one because I know it's a lot of information and I'm shooting it out very, very quickly. Reading into signs that are not signs. The spiritual community love to do this. They love to, oh my God, that was a sign from my spirit guide. Well, actually, no, it wasn't. It was just something that just randomly happened. I suddenly I was really, really ill. Something terrible got into me from someone else. Actually, maybe you just got a bug that was floating around. Sometimes there is a sign in there, and sometimes there is not a sign in there. Don't overread into certain things that are happening in your life and synchronicities. If you know how to go in and get confirmation, get the confirmation on it, but make sure you're getting the confirmation from a reputable source like your higher self or a guide that you already know and trust, that you have experience of and a repertoire and a compadreship with. So these are just some of the basics. These are just some of the basics. But the basics are very, very important. So if you're just starting out, I want you to start thinking about some of these things. You'll get to a point where you start going in every day. I'm telling you, I learn stuff every single day. I never stop learning stuff. When I'm going into my energy, when I'm speaking to my guides, when I'm channeling the Arcturians, when I'm channeling the Mantis beings, when I'm channeling Archangel Michael during a client session, or when I'm channeling someone else's higher self because I need to get answers and give it back to the person. You're never going to stop seeing new things. You must release expectation and control of what you think you're going to get and how it's going to come through. And never limit yourself to what you think you're going to get and what you think might come through, because your guides, be it any dimensionality, any breed, any type, any collective, any vibration frequency, will always be nudging you just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more, to take on a little bit more information or do a new process or take on a new thing. And never limit yourself. Say, well, that's not my thing, or I don't do that, or I don't work in that way, or I don't channel those beings, or whatever, because they're always going to keep pushing you a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And those who go the fastest, I tell you from experience, from pure experience, are the ones who surrender. It's about surrender, surrender, surrender. Oh, did I say surrender? It's about surrender. Surrender into the energy that is coming down and through. Sometimes Creator will want to work through you when you surrender and allow it to come through you. Sometimes your guides will come in and want to work through you, not with you, when you surrender into it. And I'm going to leave you with a final thought. When I do my master classes, there's always one or two who go, when I say, right, now you know who your guides are and I've taught you how to see them because you've opened up your third eye, I say, right, now bring them into your field and step back. And there's always one or two who are very, very fearful, and they say, oh, well, yeah, but that's dangerous. You can't do that. And those are the ones who never get the experiences and can never go the final hurdle and start channeling. Drop the fear. Come out of your filters and your programming and your AI in here, and come down here where your highest self is, all the way up to the 12th, your 12th strand dimensional encoding. And my God, are you going to be cooking on gas very quickly. I'm Alexander Quinn. I haven't got anything more to say. I think that's enough for all of you for the time being. And for those of you who are pros, your pro channels, I've got a message for all of you as well, because this is what my guides keep giving me. Never stop going back to the basics. Never stop going back to the basics. The basics are so important. It's like a golf pro. They never stop going back to the driving range and improving a shot and improving a shot and improving a shot, no matter how good you get. Keep going back to the basics, because we are not fully embodied into our light vessels yet, and we still are working through a lot of density, because the fourth dimension is the sum total of all your emotions, including your density and your trauma and everything else, and it sits on the bed of the fourth dimension, and that's what the collective are working through at this moment in time. So it's not like you don't already have enough SHIT to already work through. So I sometimes feel like maybe my messages are a little bit too brutal or a little bit too strong. I tell it how it is. I'm very straight up, and that's why people like that. And I apologize if I'm not soft enough sometimes, but time is really of the essence now. And one last thing. Don't sit and wait around for your guides to come to you. They're not going to. Wow, there's a thought. That's not very nice. That can't be true. No, if you sit around and wait for your guides to come to you, they're not going to come. They're going to give you very gentle little nudges. Very gentle. But if you're in your head, you'll never have the perception to see them because you're not open. You're still working through the filters of your childhood trauma, what happened with your parents and your job and your money and everything else. That's why you got to come down here. So many people say, well, I've been told I'm going to start channeling. I've been told I'm going to be doing this. And I say, great. Why don't you start right now? Because your guides want you to start right now. It's called free will. We're on a free will planet, and you can start the second you want. You don't need to wait because they are ready waiting for you now. In fact, yesterday. So don't wait because your guides will just sit there looking at you saying, well, we've been waiting 30 years for permission to come in, but he hasn't flipped the switch yet. Or we've been waiting 60 years for this woman to flip the switch. We can't break galactic and cosmic and celestial law because that's the deal here down on Earth. Ashawakad ishentio india da bakadada ishantaka in wani in the tienda dia de ababadi ishakada india. Start today. Don't wait. You don't need to. This is the payoff lifetime. Get to work, light worker. This is why you came. Ciao. God bless.